I never expected her to remember my name, let alone everything else. Most mornings, I slip into Harper's Cafe before anyone else from campus is awake. It's the only place where I don't feel like I'm waiting for something. The lights are always a bit too warm, the floor's slightly sticky, and the clock above the pastry case ticks like it's thinking too hard. That morning, she was there. Not like a stranger passing through, but like someone who already belonged to the room. I recognized her from a handful of backyard barbecues years ago. My friend Liam's mom, Elena, the kind of woman who always looked like she already knew the punchline. She was stirring her coffee, slow, like the spoon had a secret. When she glanced up, her eyes flicked over me, a quick scan, and then she smiled. Not a polite one. Something softer. Something that saw. "You're Liam's friend, right?" she said, already sure of it. "Evan," I replied. My voice sounded like it didn't want to be heard. "Elena." She said it like a reintroduction. "Medium latte. 1 sugar." She pointed at the drink in my hand. I blinked. "You remember that? You're easy to remember." She said it without flirting. Or maybe that was flirting, the kind that doesn't ask permission. I sat a couple seats away at the counter, pretending to scroll my phone. I typed a message to Liam. Guess who I ran into? Then deleted it before sending. It felt like something I should keep to myself. We didn't talk again for a few minutes. Just occasional glances when one of us looked up too quickly. She adjusted the sleeve of her sweater, rolling it to her elbow. I tried not to stare at her hands. Elegant, faint lines, a tiny burn mark near her thumb like she cooked too often and too distractedly. She noticed me noticing, and her smile tugged in that way where the lips stay still, but the eyes give everything away. "You still play guitar?" she asked suddenly, like she'd been holding the question. "How did you?" "You used to bring it everywhere," she said. "Even when it rained." I laughed under my breath. "Yeah, I guess I wanted to look like the kind of person who writes songs. And now, I mostly look like the kind of person who hasn't cleaned his apartment in a week." She laughed, a quiet, real laugh. No teeth, just breath. The kind that makes you want to say something funny again just to hear it twice. I noticed her coffee had gone cold, but she kept holding the cup like heat might magically return. Her eyes drifted to the window, the streetlights flickering off as the sun pushed in. For a moment, she looked tired. Not worn out tired. Survived something tired. I cleared my throat. "Are you visiting?" "Moved back," she said. "Closer to family. Or close enough to pretend we see each other." Her thumb traced the rim of her cup. That tiny motion, restless, unsure, felt like the truest thing I'd seen all week. "I didn't know," I said. "No one really does." She looked at me again. "But you notice things." I tried to hold her gaze, but I folded the edge of my napkin instead. A small, pointless crease. She leaned in just a little. Close enough that I could smell her. Bergamot, maybe. Something warm. "You looked away," she said quietly, almost amused. I didn't want to be rude. Her voice dropped. That soft, dangerous honesty adults have when they forget to protect themselves. "Don't stop staring." "I like it." The clock ticked loud above us. I felt my pulse do the same inside my wrist. Before I could reply, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, and whatever she read pulled her back into the day. She stood, picking up her cold coffee like an afterthought. "See you around, Evan." She left before I found the right response, or any response at all. On the counter, next to where she sat, lay a keycard. Hotel logo, room number smudged but visible. Not lost. Left. I didn't mean to return the keycard the same evening. But the hotel was only a block from my apartment, and the thought of it sitting on my desk, a secret shaped like a rectangle, made me restless. She opened the door after the second knock, surprised but not startled. Hair loose now, bare feet on cheap carpet. The TV hummed low behind her, some cooking show no one actually watches. "You found me," she said, like I'd passed a test. "You left this." I held out the card. She looked at it for a beat longer than necessary, then smiled and stepped back. "Come in, unless you have somewhere better to be." I didn't. The room smelled like chamomile tea and hotel air conditioning. She had a kettle on the desk, 2 mugs set out like she'd planned for company, but wasn't sure who would show up. "You drink tea?" she asked. "I'll drink anything that's not ramen." She handed me a mug, fingers brushing mine. the kind of touch polite enough to ignore, if ignoring didn't make it louder. We sat on the edge of the bed because there wasn't anywhere else. Our knees accidentally lined up, and neither of us moved. She sighed quietly, staring into her cup. A small confession slipped out before she could stop it. I thought I'd feel younger coming home. Her voice cracked on younger, a tiny fracture. I didn't know the whole story, but I didn't need it. The way she twisted the mug's handle back and forth, restless, uncertain, told enough. Being close to the people you love doesn't always mean you feel close, I said. She looked over, surprised I understood, or that I'd dare to. How old are you now, Evan? She asked, like age was a trap. 23. She nodded once. I remember 23. It felt like everything mattered. And now? I asked. Now it feels like everything leaves a mark. We sat in that quiet. Not comfortable, not uncomfortable, just real. The kettle clicked as it cooled. She finally looked at me fully, eyes searching like she might find a younger version of herself reflected there. Liam would freak out if he knew I was talking to you like this, she murmured. There it was, the forbidden line drawn in soft ink. Then we just won't tell him, I said, trying to sound casual. It came out as something else. She breathed out a laugh, sad edges, warm center. She reached up and swept a strand of hair behind her ear, then hesitated and touched my jaw instead. Just the side of her fingers, a barely there glide. It shouldn't have meant anything. It meant everything. She pulled her hand back like she regretted being honest with her skin. I don't know why this moment stayed with me. I thought, unable to say it aloud. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me. She blinked slow, steady, a gaze that held its own truth. Thank you for the tea, I said, standing because if I didn't, I might not. Elena, I added at the door. I'm glad you remembered me. She smiled, small, but brave. I never forgot. I didn't see her again for 3 days. Not because I stopped going to the cafe. I went more. Earlier. Later. Pretending I just needed caffeine when I really needed that look she gave me. The one that made me feel like I hadn't vanished into the noise of my own life. By the 4th morning, she walked in just as I was about to leave. She looked around like she wasn't sure she belonged. Then her shoulders dropped when she saw me. There you are, she said. A simple line, but it hit like relief. I stood up too fast. Yeah, I live here apparently. She laughed, and for a second, everything was fine. Then Liam slid into the seat beside me. Hey, he said, grinning. Look who I found wandering around the parking lot. He meant his mother. He didn't see the undercurrent, or didn't want to. Elena sat on his other side. She kept her hands folded, safe, like she was afraid to move them. I pretended to focus on my phone again. Unsent messages piling up as drafts to no one. Liam started talking about some party on Saturday. People I barely knew. Plans I wouldn't go to. I kept catching Elena's eyes between sentences, quick flashes, checking if I was okay, or if we were still pretending nothing happened. Mom, you're quiet, Liam said. She stirred her spoon in an empty cup. Just tired, she murmured. When he looked away, she mouthed, sorry. I didn't know if she meant for being there, or for not being able to be anything else. He left first. A friend texted him. Some urgent college nothing. So it was just us again. Silence thick as steam from the espresso machine. You disappeared, I said, not accusing, just a truth that slipped out. I needed to think. She kept her voice careful. Lines get blurry if we don't. Lines. There it was. The boundary wrapped in good intentions. I know what this looks like, she went on. And I can't hurt my son. Or you. I swallowed a response that would have made everything harder. She touched my sleeve. Light, hesitant, as if checking the temperature of a moment. I didn't move away. You're a good person, Evan, she whispered. Too good to make a mistake like me. I shook my head before she finished. You're not. Don't argue, she said. But her voice wasn't steady enough to sound firm. We both looked at the exit like it offered a version of us without consequences. Her eyes drifted to my hands. I let my fingers open on the table, an unconscious invitation. Barely a gesture, barely anything. She stared at them for a long second. Then, she reached. Not a full touch, just her pinky brushing mine. The tiniest choice with the loudest meaning. We held still, breath caught between wanting and fearing. Someone came through the door. The bell chimed too loud, and she flinched, pulling her hand back like she'd been burned. Our eyes met. Almost. Almost enough to say everything out loud. Friday night. I found myself walking home slower than usual. The air smelled like rain that wasn't brave enough to start. Streetlights blinked in a lazy pattern, like they were still deciding whether the dark deserved company. I saw her before she saw me. Elena stood outside the apartment building, arms crossed tight, keys dangling from her fingers. She stared at the door like it had just betrayed her. "You okay?" I asked. She startled, then tried to make it into a laugh. Locked myself out. Again. I took a step closer, rain tapping lightly at my jacket. "Did you call Liam?" "He's out." Wouldn't hear his phone. She shifted her weight, eyes flicking away. I didn't really want to bother him anyway. She didn't ask for help. I didn't wait for permission. "Come up," I said. "Just until he gets back." She hesitated a heartbeat too long, which meant she'd already decided yes, and followed. Inside my apartment, she took everything in quietly. The guitar in the corner, 2 mismatched mugs on the counter, a pile of laundry I pretended I meant to fold. "This feels like," she paused. "Small." I guessed. Honest. Her voice softened on the word. I poured water into a kettle, muscle memory, hoping she didn't notice the tremor in my hand. She leaned against the counter far too close and not close enough. "So," she said, watching the kettle heat, "you really didn't send any of those texts to Liam?" My chest tightened. "You saw?" She nodded. Drafts light up the screen. I tried to laugh it off. Failed. Couldn't explain without explaining too much. She turned to me. Really looked at me. Her eyes felt like hands. "You're making this dangerous," she whispered. "You keep talking like the danger is only on one side." Something flickered across her face. Jealousy, fear, want. I couldn't name it, only feel it. "You're 23, she said. "You're supposed to want people your age." "Not." She trailed off, jaw tightening. "Not what?" I asked, stepping into the silence she left. She looked down at my shirt like it had a better answer. "Not someone who has already lived a whole life and failed at half of it." "I don't see failure," I said. "Just someone trying again." Her breath caught. I heard it. She pressed a palm to her forehead and laughed once. The kind that's half crying if you tilt it sideways. "Evan, if I let myself feel this, you already do," I said, too softly to take back. The kettle clicked off. Neither of us moved. She reached out, fingertips brushing the hem of my sleeve, holding, then pulling as if she might draw me in or push me away. Her decision hovered in the space between us. "Elena," I whispered. Her eyes lifted to mine, bright, afraid, wanting. The question hung there, unspoken but undeniable. If I close this distance, what happens to everything else? The next morning, she was gone before the kettle cooled. She left a note on my counter. "Thank you for the tea. And the company." Polite handwriting. Too polite. That afternoon, I waited at the cafe. Tried not to. Ordered the wrong drink just to stay longer. Watched the door open and close like a heartbeat with no rhythm. No Elena. By the 3rd day, I told myself she'd just been busy. By the 5th, I stopped believing it. When Liam invited me over for dinner, I said yes before thinking. Maybe I wanted to prove she hadn't vanished, that we still lived in the same reality. His house smelled like oven pizza and lemon cleaning spray. Family casual. Doors open. Nothing to hide. Except she wasn't there. "She's staying with my aunt for a bit," Liam said, popping a soda tap. "Some stuff with the divorce paperwork came up. You know how it is." I didn't, but I nodded. Divorce. The word hit like a late-arriving storm. Heavy. Loud. She hadn't told me. Or maybe she had. In every silence I hadn't learned to translate yet. Later, when Liam stepped away to take a call, I drifted into the hallway, drawn to a framed photo on a small table. Elena, younger, beach wind in her hair, laughing with a man who wasn't laughing back. I could see it even in the image. She was reaching across something he refused to cross. A voice came from behind me. "You okay looking at that?" Elena's mother, Liam's grandmother, stood there with a laundry basket on her hip. Soft eyes, but sharp understanding. "She's been different," she said quietly. "Started building walls, then realized she'd made a house out of them." I swallowed. I didn't mean to. Oh, honey, she cut me off gently. Meaning doesn't keep people from getting hurt. I didn't know if she was warning me or thanking me for trying. When I got home, I almost texted Elena. Almost. Typed, "Are you all right?" Deleted. Typed, "Did I do something wrong?" Deleted. Typed, "I miss talking to you." Stared at that one longer. My thumb hovered over send like it had a heartbeat of its own. But I couldn't do it. Not without knowing what she wanted. So I closed my phone and set it face down like that erased anything. The next morning, I didn't go to the cafe. I walked past it fast, like the door might call out my name. Like I wasn't sure I'd be able to stop if it did. That night, lying awake with the city buzzing under my window, I realized something painfully simple. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused, like life forgot to finish the sentence. Outside, a car door slammed. Someone laughed. The world kept moving, as if nothing had changed. But my seat across from her stayed empty. I saw her again on a Tuesday. Not at the cafe. Not at home. Just walking. Grocery bag in one hand. Coat clutched close like she was shielding herself from more than the cold. I almost kept going. Almost convinced myself she didn't see me. But she stopped. Evan. Just my name. And suddenly I was standing right in front of her with every unsent message between us. "You disappeared," I said. It came out too raw. "You opened a door I wasn't sure I should walk through," she replied, voice barely more than breath. We stood on the sidewalk, cars passing like we were frozen in a place they no longer recognized. "Did I push too far?" I asked. "No," she said immediately, then swallowed. "But I wanted you to." Her eyes glistened like she was angry at herself for admitting it. She shifted the grocery bag to her other hand, a nervous tell, and the apples inside bumped softly against each other, like a reminder of the everyday life she was trying to return to. "I'm scared," she said. "Of me?" I asked. "Of wanting something I can't explain." A beat. "And what if I break your life before it even starts?" I shook my head. "You're not that powerful." That made her laugh, tired, real. She exhaled, long and uneven. "Liam would never forgive me." "That's his choice," I said. "What's yours?" She looked at the ground, jaw tightening like the answer hurt. "Every time I leave," she said quietly, "I hope you won't be there next time. And every time I come back, I hope you will." The honesty landed like gravity, heavy but necessary. Instinctively, I reached out, stopping just before touching her, close enough that she could meet me halfway. "Elena," I whispered, "I don't want this to be something you're ashamed of." She glanced up, eyes bright with fear and want and 1,000 other things we'd never named. "I'm ashamed of how good you make me feel," she said, like I didn't waste the best years. Her voice cracked. I stepped closer. This time, she didn't step back. But she didn't lean in either. Silence stretched, not like a wall, but a bridge we were both scared to cross first. I finally asked the thing that had been trapped in my chest for weeks. "What do you want me to do?" She blinked, once, a slow decision forming. "Just don't look away first," she said. So I didn't. I kept my gaze steady, even as my pulse stumbled, even as the city blurred behind her. Her fingers finally let go of the grocery bag handle and found my sleeve instead. Barely a grip, barely anything, yet everything. A small, brave connection. Her silent way of saying, "I'm choosing this, even if I don't know how." We didn't rush. Weeks passed, then months. Life kept doing what life does, burning toast, misplacing keys, forgetting what day it is. But we found a rhythm. Some mornings, I'd walk into the cafe and she'd already be there. Medium latte, 1 sugar, tracing the rim of the cup with absent fingertips. I'd sit beside her, order nothing, and she'd slide half her muffin onto my napkin without asking. Other days, we didn't meet at all, and that was okay too. Liam didn't know, not everything, anyway. He moved out, got busy with work, started bringing home girls he thought were serious until they weren't. He'd mention his mom now and then, proud that she seemed happier. "It's good she has people," he said once, not looking at me. I nodded, sipping the tea she preferred now. Chamomile. The kettle in my apartment clicked off more evenings than not. Soft punctuation to our days. We never talked about the first night in my kitchen, or the sidewalk confession, or the way her hand shook when she first held on to my sleeve. Instead, We talked about the grocery store being out of apples again, how my guitar needed new strings, how sunlight hit the wall weird at exactly 8:47 a.m. in her living room. Ordinary things that meant we were still choosing each other. One Sunday, we sat on a bench outside the old park she used to take Liam to. Kids shrieked around us, joy in its simplest form. Elena leaned back, eyes half closed, chin tilted toward the sun. "You know," she said, "I thought starting over meant pretending nothing from before existed. And now?" I asked. "Now I think starting over means letting something new exist beside it." Our shoulders touched, a soft, quiet certainty. Not an earth-shattering kiss. Not fireworks. Just warmth. And belonging. She watched a father push his daughter on a swing. Gentle arc, small hands gripping tight. "I wasted so much time being afraid," she said. "You're here now," I replied. She looked at me then. The same look she gave that first morning, except this time she didn't hide the meaning. No word for it. Didn't need one. Her hand found mine on the bench. Openly, simply. We held on, like we were steadying each other. The moment wasn't big, but it held everything. Later, walking her home, she paused at her door. The hallway was quiet. Just the hum of shared pipes and two silhouettes that no longer pretended to be strangers. She brushed her thumb along my knuckles, slow, like memory. "Thank you," she whispered, "for not looking away first." In the stillness, I understood. Some stories don't need grand endings. Just a place to land. Someone who stays. And mornings where the coffee gets cold because the conversation doesn't.